Live and alert on the north side of the dirt. It is your man D Real coming at you with another Be Real with D Real, where edutainment is what I do. And before y'all say anything, I had this sweater back in 2018, 2019. So I didn't go out and buy this sweater. I've been having this sweater. Set y'all up for what's gonna be happening in this video shortly. Question. Prior to 2008, was Iron Man a popular character? Was Iron Man a household name? And how does a character like Iron Man compare to a character like T'Challa, both comic book wise and cinematically, and could it be different? Okay, before we get off into that, I need y'all to do what you always do for your mans in there. Comment, like, subscribe, and share the Be Real with D Real page so that when new material comes out, you get it. If you're digging what a brother shoveling, put some dirt in my bucket, comment, like, subscribe, and share the Be Real with D Real page. Okay. Tony Stark, aka Anthony Edward Stark, made his debut in Tales of Suspense number 39, all the way back in 1963. That was 3 years before the premiere of T'Challa, the Black Panther, in Fantastic Four number 52 in 1966. Iron Man didn't get his own regular monthly title. He appeared in Tales of Suspense. He did not get his own regular monthly title until 1968. So, Iron Man had been a character for 5 years before getting his own comic book. Iron Man became a member of the Avengers before getting his own comic book. Okay. Let's look at T'Challa. Okay. Black Panther made his premiere again in 1966. Fantastic Four number 52. Black Panther didn't become a member of the Avengers until 1968, I want to say. The same year Iron Man got his own comic book. Okay. Black Panther didn't get his own comic book. I mean, technically, we could call Jungle Action his comic book. It ran. He appeared in the comic book from issue 6 to issue number 24, and I think that's where the comic book kind of did its swan song, and we didn't see Jungle Action anymore. So, depending on which comic book you want to count as T'Challa's regular monthly comic book, you had Jungle Action, and T'Challa make his premiere in his own comic book in 1977. So roughly 8 to 10 years, 6 to 10 years, got his own comic, versus Iron Man getting his own comic about 3 or 4 years after his creation. More interesting character, more deeper stories, better villains? Maybe, but let's go a little deeper. Iron Man ran for about 300, I want to say 300 plus issues before the comic was canceled and reintroduced during the Onslaught Rebirth thing. Okay, and then there were Heroes Reborn, and then we got a reboot of Iron Man's comic book. Actually, we had a couple of reboots of Iron Man's comic book since then. Iron Man has had some amazing storylines, but for the most part, whether we want to believe it or not, Iron Man's comic book, after its initial run, kind of flipped and floundered. He had some good runs with Matt Fraction and Salvador Larroca on the art chores, and then of course the amazing Warren Ellis run with art by Adi Granoff, and that was where you got introduced to the extremist virus. Okay, by and large, in the early 2000s. Was Iron Man considered a top tier character? Was Iron Man considered? I'm not. Excuse me. I'm not talking about to you. Okay, because if that's the case, then in my eyes, T'Challa is the most popular comic book character in the universe. So it's not my personal opinion. I'm saying numbers, comic book sales, all that. Was Iron Man considered a top tier character? Okay, then we'll answer that question by asking another one. How many people watching this video right now, your first introduction to Anthony Edward Stark, aka Iron Man, was in 2008 in the Iron Man movie? Okay. So basically what I'm getting at is this. Iron Man and Black Panther had similar paths in comics. I would venture to say Iron Man is just a wee bit more popular than T'Challa, comic-wise. Okay, when we talk about classic storylines that a character has been involved in, I will venture to say Iron Man has been involved in a lot more popular stories than T'Challa has been. Does that mean he's a better character, though? Okay. If people won't take the responsibility of writing that character, we don't get to see how great that character can be potentially. Question: what if somebody has started a run on Black Panther like Christopher Priest started in 1998, say in 1977, 1980? If Black Panther had the level of writing and contribution creative wise like he did from 1998 to about 2007, 2008, if he had that kind of attention paid to storylines, if he had that kind of interaction with other characters in the Marvel universe back in the 70s, instead of, throwing them off in these crazy stories, not to say I didn't enjoy them, but what I'm getting at is until 2008, overall, Iron Man was no popular of a character. He was more popular than T'Challa, but he wasn't a household name prior to 2008, period. Yeah, he had a cartoon in the 90s where he rocked this mullet and was voiced by Robert Hayes, but that was a kid's cartoon, and I don't think that really registered with a lot of adults. Hell, I like the Fantastic Four cartoon that came out at the same time more than I like the Iron Man cartoon. But be that as it may, What I'm getting at is this. Marvel Studios made Iron Man a household name, not just on the strength of Anthony Edward Stark. It was his turn cinematically that drove his popularity through the roof. And because the people who wrote the Iron Man movie and who wrote subsequent movies like the Avengers and the Spider-Man series that involved Iron Man in them, that made Iron Man more popular as a character. And Iron Man more or less became the flagship character, arguably the flagship character of the MCU for a number of years. People want, when that next Iron Man movie gonna drop? Oh, I want to see Iron Man. When they gonna have War Machine? When we gonna see the Mandarin? All of those kind of conversations were coming up in the mid 2000s because fans of the comic book character were showing up to support the adventures of Tony Stark cinematically. Y'all see what I'm getting at? Okay. Fans of T'Challa, the Black Panther, showed up in force to support the premiere, the cinematic premiere of T'Challa, the Black Panther in Captain America Civil War. Whose debut garnered more money cinematically or was involved with the project that got, I mean, I get it. Iron Man was in both Iron Man and Captain America Civil War. But my point being the premiere of that character was seeing Iron Man land in that Middle Eastern country and blast up and blow up stuff and show out more popular than T'Challa coming out of nowhere, beating the crap out of Bucky, chasing him down, hunting him like a dog, and putting foot square in his behind, and Captain America if he wanted to get some too. I mean, granted, it was a different time in 2008, but at the same time, we talk about as far as a character's debut, a character's movie, box office numbers, all that. Are we saying T'Challa was a footnote? Are we saying T'Challa was an afterthought? Are we saying T'Challa didn't make as much, if not more, of a cinematic impact than Tony Stark? I know a lot of people like, oh, T'Challa was a phenomenon. People were jumping on buses and this, that, and the other, and you'd never seen that before with a movie. Perhaps the fact that you had never seen that before with a movie should speak volumes about that character. Moms are jumping on buses to go see this movie because we got one. Okay, we had Falcon, but Falcon was a sidekick. Falcon wasn't a showstopper. Falcon didn't come in like, I'm about my business and I'm gonna hurt anybody who say different. That's how you got to come in. You got to kick in the door waving the 4-4. You know what I'm saying? That way, ain't nobody going to be like, it's all right. No, you came in there, you put foot to behind, you got an actor that pulled it off, and then you went on to make a movie featuring that character and that actor that made $1 billion worldwide. Grief and sadness over a colleague dying, an emotional decision, which I've been saying in several videos, an emotional decision is not what you need to be making when it comes to billions of dollars. Okay, yeah, all right. I miss my colleague. I miss my friend. I miss my buddy, who I didn't find out died until after somebody else told me. That's my buddy. That's my pal. Why did my buddy or my pal's wife or brother or somebody in his family tell me Chad's dead? But that's a whole nother video. Anyway, so what I'm getting at is lack of attention is what made T'Challa less popular than Tony Stark. Tony Stark got all kinds of attention. Tony Stark appeared in all kinds of movies. Why couldn't T'Challa appear in a movie? He's got technology. He's got arguably better technology than Tony Stark. Why couldn't we have given T'Challa a young protege, like say maybe the Dwayne Taylor, and since we going off of the reservation, why couldn't Dwayne Taylor, aka Night Thrasher, have inherited some kind of Wakanda technology courtesy of T'Challa? Why couldn't we have had a Casper Cole sponsored by T'Challa as the White Tiger? It's endless possibilities. You know what I'm saying? Just like Tony Stark was the financier and benefactor of the Avengers and Spider-Man, who's to say T'Challa could not have operated in that same capacity? Who's to say T'Challa could not have been the Stark Industries of the MCU? Because let's be honest, in the Marvel universe, that's all you hear about is Wakanda this, Wakanda that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying you hear about it more than you hear about Stark stuff, but you hear about it equally. You know, why do we feel the need to downplay T'Challa? Why do we feel the need to downplay Wakandan technology and Black Panther's role in the MCU? T'Challa could have been on that same pedestal. T'Challa could have been on that same echelon. But for some reason, we chose to play up Tony Stark more in the MCU. In closing, Iron Man isn't a better character than T'Challa. I mean, we could argue that all day in the comments, but Iron Man is not a better character than T'Challa. Fight me. I'm just, I mean, I get it's different strokes for different folks. I mean, for them people out there that love Iron Man, I'm not insulting him. I'm not insulting Iron Man as a character. I'm just saying, do the history, do the math. Okay, there's more people writing comic books about Iron Man because why? Are we not writing comic books about T'Challa through the 80s and the 90s because he's not an interesting character? Or because writers didn't know what to do with the character up until 1998, when we got to see Dora Milaje and Hattusaraze and all kind of Wakandan stuff. Like, could nobody have delved and dived off into Wakanda like Don McGregor and Billy Graham did back in the 70s in Jungle Action? Like, nobody could have dived off into Wakanda like Stan Lee and Jack Kirby did in the 70s with Black Panther series. Choices. Okay. People weren't buying Black Panther comic books in the 70s. Is that on the people buying it or the people writing the stories? Could you have been writing stories about characters like Salamander, Cruel, Somber, and other enemies that T'Challa had, instead of writing about time traveling frogs and age old Shangri-La type samurai and giant yetis and little men following you around? I mean, and I ain't knocking those stories because I grew up listening to, reading them, not listening, reading them. So I'm not knocking them, but I'm just saying a little more effort could have been put into developing T'Challa's stories, into developing T'Challa as a character. But we chose not to do that. So Tony Stark gets all the shine in the MCU, and T'Challa becomes a footnote. Coincidental or by design? We could argue that point forever too, but I'm not going to. I will be coming at y'all with another one of them other ones. And until I do, y'all be good. Be good to each other.